I'm getting better.
If it makes you happy, then why the hell are you so sad?
I want to try out for Wings of Voice so fucking bad.
I know.
I want to spend 10K.
10K.
Welcome to Stream Queens, the pod.
I'm Erin McKeon.
I'm Julia Went. And we are the Bushwick Intellectual Class. We are coming to you from Bushwick, New York, where we have been roommates for half a decade. We've known each other for twice as long. We met at film school. We have worked in entertainment industry in various capacities since then. We met at an internship where mostly our responsibility were to smoke cigarettes and drink Diet Coke on the roof. Really trying stuff. And now we provide in-depth analysis and criticism of today's top television shows to bring you the definitive take.
That was really good. I like how you expanded the intro. I feel like you gave them a lot more context on us.
Thank you. I'm trying. Like, we're, of course, always growing, working on brand.
Yeah.
Trying to engage with you all, the community.
Yeah, we really want to engage with our audience. And one thing we really want to engage with our audience about, just to get this right at the top of the episode, chat. We got one episode left of the shows we're currently on.
Funk.
We don't know what we're doing next. We have the whole world as kind of our oyster, but we'd love to know what you want to hear us talk about. So please DM us, Stream Queens the Pod on Instagram, TikTok. Follow us, DM us. We might open it. We might respond.
Yes.
We probably will.
We probably will. So that's, of course, you can find us. You mentioned Instagram, on TikTok at Stream Queens the Pod. You can comment on Spotify podcasts now, where you should follow and subscribe to us on all our channels. We're on there. We're on Apple. We're on YouTube. That helps us grow. That helps us reach more of you all. Yeah. And ultimately link with some of the sponsors, such as Buzzball.
Yeah, we would love to get a sponsorship from Buzzball. We'd love to get a sponsorship from Theranos, RIP.
Literally. And here's a tactic I'm going to try is there are so many male podcasters. There are so many non-queer podcasters.
Woman-owned podcasts.
Yeah, and when people get on their podcast app, that's who is at the top.
Yeah.
If you want to help uplift not just our voices, but other
women,
other voices like ours, go ahead and help our numbers.
Yeah, I think it would be really, for all of us. Well, this week we're doing...
Yeah, what are we covering? One episode left.
The penultimate episode of season 2 of The Last of Us, called The Price.
The Price. I got a little bit confused on what is Joel's last name.
Yeah, you thought it was Joel Price? It's Joel Miller, baby.
I know. It's
Joel Price is no one.
We Googled it. It's like real estate agent. It's like random gay guys. Because
it's not. His name is Joel Miller.
Yeah.
Well, because we were like doing prep for the episode, and we were like, the episode's called The Price, and you're like, oh, that's because it's Joel's last name. I was like, well, no.
Well, I know it works on the level you talk about, like paying the price, etc. But I thought it was like a double entendre.
No, I think it's about the line he said at the end of the episode, which was like, I killed all those people in that hospital because I love you.
Bang, bang.
And now I have to pay the price, which is you're going to turn away from me.
This was some of our favorite writing.
This was the best episode of season 2 of The Last of Us by such infinite incredible margins.
Great job
Like, great job to everyone on the team specifically. But guess what, I'm still mad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I am. I'm still mad. I don't know if you can hear my tone of voice, but
so no change.
No, because I'm mad because this was a beautiful, perfect episode. It made me remember what I love about the show, which is, of course, the Joel and Ellie dynamic that was so painfully robbed from us this entire season. And I think everything in this episode, had this been the first episode of season 2, the entire season would look different to me. I think this...
I'd love to hear some chit chatter back on the feedback. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think it would be that simple? Because...
Yes.
Yeah, I hear you. Really?
Yes.
Okay. Go for it.
That's really what I think. I think this episode, the creators at the end of the episode were like, this episode's going to recontextualize Craig and Neil.
Hit list.
Yeah, those guys, those jokers, those clowns.
Yeah, clowns.
Yeah, Craig and Neil were like, this episode recontextualizes a lot of what we've seen in this season. And I was like, cool, I agree. What about contextualizing?
No,
and then we don't have to recontextualize anything, because I'm like,
no, recontextualize
it's not like it's a
is
twist.
Like, like 6 years later, it's like, oh, we recognize like we shouldn't have been saying fag. Like with recontextualization, we know that like actually there were a lot of people who were like, it's actually bad to be, rounding up people and sending them to camps. Like recontextualize doesn't mean in the middle of your show that you're actively making trying to, like, it asks a lot to assume that we're going to watch 7 episodes of television for you to give us context about the other shit, when in fact I was bored watching the other shit. I don't know.
Well, and just so much of what we learned and saw in this episode would have kept everything going stronger, because I just think of, there's 2 places you could have put this. I'm like, if you put this episode right at the top, I would have been right back in on The Last of Us, because I would remember. Because remember, when we watched the first episode, we were disappointed because Ellie was very mad at Joel, and we didn't know what had happened. At all. And we were like, oh, I'm really missing the dynamic between those two, and we didn't get to see any kind of positive fun moments. And then he dies, and we continue, you know, so then we just lost all of it, and we felt really badly about not getting to see those two together. And then they of course give us this incredible episode of the 2 of them. We get to see their dynamic, and it's so fun, and I love everything about it. Had you put that episode at the top of the season, I would then have context for everything else that's going to happen. Or if you put it right after Joel's death, I would be crying. And instead, it's coming way too late in the game. It's giving us all these kind of, even all the stuff I've hated this whole time, right? Like, I'm like, Ellie's like queer journey would have hit a lot harder if I had already seen the scene where Joel walks in on Ellie, like having some gay sex and getting a tattoo. Like, I'm like, that kind of stuff.
What we've been critiquing and complaining about over the course of the season is a lack of stakes and a lack of motivation, and this does exactly that. It provides that, and I appreciate like what you're saying. You know, our good friend Tukaba is helped me, like, if the audience is confused, they're not laughing. That's for improv. If we're confused, we're not like connecting with the characters, and that's a big failure. And I do think not just the tattoo moment, like the queer moment with Ellie and their, you know, 19-year-old lesbian lover on their 17th birthday. Nothing like sympathy for your birthday. That's my new thing, Chad, is being like, kind of just being like this and some pussy.
Yeah, like, being kind of a pee hound.
Yeah. Hey, whoa. But maybe I'm just trying to figure out who the fuck I am. You know what I mean?
We all are.
Yeah, and so kind of picking a preordained, like a off the shelf identity. I'm like, yeah, I'm a pea hound. Fuck it. But like, I'm the dad, right? As we break down some key points of this episode, is like we would perhaps, a moment that fell flat for us, I'm gonna be a dad. If we understood that to be Ellie's option to be a redemption, or like how they can forgive Joel by starting to try and do better.
Yes, by doing a little bit better. We had the context of Joel's dad into passing on this journey of fatherhood, then Ellie's I'm going to be a dad line wouldn't have felt corny, and Ellie's excitement on her face and like that moment wouldn't have felt ridiculous. It would have felt really heartfelt. It might have made me fucking cry. Like, that's what's so disappointing about, I adored every second of this episode. I really thought it was gorgeous and perfect, and yet so much of it I left with a sadness that I'm like, damn, I really could have enjoyed.
You felt robbed.
I felt like I could have enjoyed other moments of the season.
And it isn't trying what this show seems to be about, trying to do better.
Well, let's get into that scene, right? Like,
yeah,
so we start this episode in 1983. We got Joel's classic cop dad, and we got baby Joel.
And by classic cop dad, we mean abusive.
Yeah, of course. That is what I meant. Like,
we mean alcoholic. We're going to have a beer when we got to be back on patrol in 30 minutes.
Yeah. But he didn't take it with him.
Well, probably because he had one already in the already going.
For sure.
So, which I don't condone. Of course. But talk us to, you liked, I mean, it was just fun, good, right? I mean, whatever.
It was predictable writing, but I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed the sentiment of the scene, because I really thought it was what the show is all about. It's what life's all about. Like, can you just do a little better than what's before you, you know?
It's one of the best, most hopeful, and also maybe just like resonant explanations or like philosophies for trying to move forward. And to your point, is part and parcel with the rest of the show, which is like, what does humanity do in the face of crisis? It's try and answer the same questions that we have struggled and grappled with for our entire fucking history.
Yeah.
That was really beautiful.
So beautiful.
And you have a dad. And by that I mean
I had one.
Yeah, and as I said that, I was like,
I had a dad.
no, like not to
bring it up, but I had one.
Right. So that's an experience I didn't have.
Yeah. Yeah. You didn't have one at all.
No.
Yeah.
Did this bring anything up specifically dad wise, like in that moment, or
not necessarily that moment, but this whole episode did, of course, because like I of course had a dad.
Yeah.
I don't know if he did a little better than his dad,
yeah.
but he definitely wasn't all love. We had a great time. Love that guy.
Sure.
R.I.P. Chuck. Love my dad.
He would have loved Stream Queens.
He would have loved Stream Queens a Pod. And we had a lot of fun together, but he was definitely no Joel. You know what I mean? He wasn't taking me to the museum. There wasn't necessarily like there, you know what I mean? So I'm like, this episode did have a little twinge of kind of like. Are you
going to be a dad, you think?
Am I going to be a dad? No, I don't think.
Okay. Watch the space. Wait.
Watch the space.
I would love to be 20, 30 years from now doing Stream Queens and like hear like little pitter patter and like squeals and us be like,
it's the kids.
It's the ghosts. Whose kids are those? How did they get in here?
Those are not ours. I'm not a dad.
Those couldn't be. Those no, like
fully.
I'm like, did the ward start accepting kids?
That's
or
weird.
Like we're doing pediatric?
Yeah. Yeah, but I loved the 1983 scene. I thought it was really cute. And contextualizes Joel as a character, contextualizes fatherhood as a theme that's going on that, God, I wish we'd explored earlier. But then we go into the Ellie's birthday monologue.
Yeah, we flash
or not monologue. Sorry, the Ellie's birthday montage.
Which is French. Yeah, tough to write. Lots of different ways you can write it in a script.
Did you like it?
Did I like
the birthday montage?
Well, I suppose it is montage in that it was a series of sequences, kind of back to back. However, it was long. It wasn't
they all
like
started with a cake.
Yeah.
And that was, I don't know, I loved those. I just thought all of
all the
birthdays had in common was Joel's just like commitment and dedication to really like celebrating Ellie and taking care to do all of these little things, like get the cake and, you know, I don't know, just like building that guitar from scratch and doing all these, like he cares.
Reminder,
so
this is fantasy, right? Like,
this is fantasy. It was, that's what,
doesn't exist.
When you ask about like relationship with dad, like I'm like, this was dad fanfic for me. Like I'm sitting there, like I'm like, I could cry the whole time being like, oh Literally. My God. And, you know, like, cause my dad was definitely more of like a Mamba Chews from the gas station kind of present.
What's a Mamba Chews?
Mamba Chews. They're they're kind of like Starburst, but they're a bit thicker and they're kind of chewier. I was like,
that was your caretaker.
Mamba Chew.
Yeah.
Isn't one of your mom's Mamba?
Yeah.
Oh.
Mamba secret number is 3558.
1738.
yeah, that one.
That's the secret number for your mom?
Yeah, sure.
Doesn't matter. Don't matter. She's not listening.
Yeah, she's not listening. Sorry. Which is very dad coded. I know that it's like we're not really doing that. Like that's but it's not part of it. Like we're all I think she's doing better than her dad did.
And I've met your moms, like it's like, yeah, sure, we're not assigning like dad mom roles to, you know,
sometimes
queer
we're
relationships, but sometimes we are pretty stereotypically embodying that. And
we're gonna go ahead and find an off-the-shelf type personality.
Yeah, for sure.
And they want it to be, they're like the assimilation type lesbians where it's like they want to just like have their straight little life. Like it's almost like whereas like I'm over here like, well, let's kind of build everything around the queer.
Sure.
They're like,
let's
not
fit
an inconvenience.
The queer into the straight.
Yeah. Or I don't know. I'm not going to speak for them. They can have their own podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
Loved the dad fanfic. I thought those were really exciting. It also made me write like this whole show. We're questioning Joel's choice to, you know, to go berserk, kill all those people, potentially turn against humanity. And it's like, at least he's getting a cake for his fucking kid. That's somebody who wanted to be a dad and is good at it.
Yeah.
Like, lots of people want to have a kid, but they don't want to raise a kid.
Yeah.
I wonder, I thought it was like a sweet moment in the fucking time in the little capsule when they go to the museum, but I wasn't like, wow.
At the museum?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, I was like really moved by all of it. Really, I do think I think it was just seeing a dad who cares so much, and of course we have the context of why does he care, I'm sure he did do a great job with his daughter
With Sarah,
with Sarah pre-Cordy's, but like
R.I.P.
he's
Sarah,
got
you would
so
have loved
much,
experiencing the bonds.
invested in Ellie, who he's gotten to Jackson safely by any and all means necessary, and like God, his investment in her having a fucking life it's really beautiful to see. And I just thought like he was so undeniably so sexy.
Oh God,
Oh
when we were
my
in the museum, we were both like,
God.
I'll suck your right now.
Right now.
I'll suck your whole and all's right in this
Right
fucking
in
museum.
this museum right now, whatever you want.
No,
Like,
I'll throw neck,
oh.
I'll throw pussy, I don't care.
No, it was so
It was so hot. It was
overwhelmingly hot. Like,
no, like
oh
raise
my
your hand if you're
God.
wet.
And him looking at her, like while they're in the astronaut scene, like they're sitting
Yeah.
there and he's just like he's laying down and he
Yeah.
looks over. I was like, what I would do.
Pedro Pascal, you sir are an actor. That's an actor.
Oh my
Do
God.
they do Emmys for whatever bullshit this is? Because
he deserves, give him an Oscar. Fuck it.
No, like I know you like TS. Like, how much do you like TS?
I think he's married, no?
Oh, what? And that's gonna stop a man? Please.
A man like Pedro Pascal with his head and his heart in the right place.
I love when he does this.
Oh my
When he
God.
has to self-soothe.
Yeah, he's
Love to self-soothe, folks. I don't really have anything to say about the gay shit. Like,
yeah, when Ellie got caught being gay.
yeah, and then, I mean, you also clocked that line was like, it's not a phase. Like, blah blah.
Yeah.
Or like what? Like it's not an experiment. And like what in the Pedro Pascal being like, you don't know what you're saying. That just feels. Oh my God, I did love when they were walking though, and Pedro's like, "So what? Is Jesse your boyfriend or?"
Yeah, y'all been spending a lot of time together.
Like, and I do. I mean, I
But
get
that's what
the
I mean,
writing of no. That was very touching, and I do get the writing of like Ellie being like kind of barking up the wrong tree type stuff, and it's like, well, that might be your girlfriend. Like, I bet Ellie could turn Jesse's ass out.
Well, but that, like, all of that stuff is, I think, what I mean. It goes back to just the original point of, I'm like, I just wish I had this all earlier. Because to see,
I would give a.
oh my God, to have seen before watching all of these Ellie and Dina scenes, I would have been so much happier for Ellie had I seen this multi-year journey of her kind of coming out to Joel, right, in this way, and Joel ultimately being, he's like experimenting, but he's just thrown. He accepts her one scene later. You know what I mean? Like, it's not.
And ultimately goes to defend.
Absolutely,
Ellie, right?
exactly. Like, all of that context of
homophobia.
Right, like Joel pushing Seth after calling them dykes. Like, I'm like, God, that scene would have hit harder if I'd seen any of this prior. None of this was strong enough without having seen this episode, and I'm so upset fully.
Check us out for season 3, Craig and Neil.
Well, and then to also get the context of, Gail and Eugene, like, come on. We got to see in this episode exactly what we got in episode 1.
Everyone's been asking, who's Eugene? The name on everyone's lips.
Eugene. Who the fuck is Eugene? And we know, like, and Gail having that line of like, I know you killed Eugene, but I don't like how you did it. To then forget about that for 6 entire episodes and then bring us back here.
It's bad for him.
Like, it's bad for him. It's bad timing. And you did it at my birthday dinner.
In a rare move of sophisticated storytelling and writing.
Yeah.
The writers are able to combine the big question of the past 2 seasons about how and when Ellie found out or suspected about Joel murking everyone in that hospital.
Right.
With the Eugene of it all.
Right. Which is a great, I think, way for Ellie to learn that, right, is this Eugene scene. And it's heartbreaking. And I do question, it's funny, I question, I'm a Joel apologist. I never really, a couple things with this whole sequence of events because I never questioned Joel's hospital decision. I always supported that.
Yeah.
And however, I did question his decision with Eugene, which I wondered his motivation there, which I think was ultimately kind of, I think there was a couple things going on. I think he's worried about Ellie, and I think he doesn't want an infected, that kind of close proximity to himself and Ellie. You know what I mean? Because he could turn at any moment on the journey back. But I'm also like, but you can take one infected. So if you have to shoot him on the way back because he does turn, okay. But then I'm like, or I wondered, is it a community thing and a precedent? And I get he's kind of breaking policy. I'm like, he's kind of a policy man, and you can't just start bringing infected back to the community because they're somebody's loved ones. But like, I don't know. It just was really disappointing. And
that's what I'm saying. I think it sets bad. I mean, to me, right? I'm like, I would have done what Joel did in a second, except I wouldn't have promised Ellie that I wasn't going to do that. I wouldn't have promised this guy that I'm not going to do this.
I know.
It's
and
just
sweet
like, I think it's ultimately
Eugene.
the right choice. Like, of course, we're not really bringing infected to Jackson.
Right.
And, you know, we've seen before when people try and like cover their shit up, it doesn't go good, right? Like.
Right. And also, we might have, the other thing I thought was maybe, I don't know if it's on his mind so much, but I'm like, we might have lost Gail in that moment. Had you brought Eugene back to the community and Gail had seen Eugene like that, like, Gail's liable to kind of let herself get bit, go with him, or just kill herself right there. Like, I'm like, it's kind of like, I'm like, Gail, did you really want to see that? I know he wanted to see it because he's terrified, right? He's like, I just want to see Gail. Like, he's looking at the mountains. He's like, I don't want to view. Like, I want Gail. Like, I'm terrified. I'm about to die. Pretty. You know what I mean? And then he's like, I'll pass along last words. And he's like, no, it's her last words. He wants reassurance from Gail. And you know, Gail's got something awesome to say. She's really good.
Right. Something witty, something witty and silly.
Yeah. And something wise and just something that could carry him to feeling less anxiety as he goes into the next life. But like,
one thing that really got us up out of our seats was the cutting from those two, Pedro and Eugene, to the wide
of the birds flying away.
Birds flying.
You didn't even need the gunshot. Yeah.
A visual representation of a noise.
Beautiful.
Oh, come
on. I loved it.
They were in rare form today.
Absolutely. That was, again, best episode of the season by such a long shot as to make the rest of the season even worse in comparison.
Love makes people act against their best interest and against the interest of those around them. Like, perhaps that's what the reason why Pedro killed Eugene, to your point, right? Maybe Gail would have been nuts.
For sure. I don't know how Gail would have reacted to that. And it's also like, but then we go to the porch scene, which I think does kind of address a lot of this. Although there's still one thing I wish that scene had addressed that didn't. Did you have something more?
Oh, well, I just want to ask you what you think about, you know, when they get back with the body and bring it to Gail and Pedro's lie. How do you know a man is lying? His lips are moving. Is like, why do you think Ellie spoke up and said the truth? Like,
I think I think Ellie is young and still kind of learning right from wrong, because honestly that information was hurtful to Gail, but I think Ellie is still kind of living in a kind of a black and white idyllic moralistic world where like honesty is the best policy, and like in that moment it wasn't. Like, that could have been a later conversation to be like, Joel, why did you lie to her? But it's like, I know why he lied to her. Like, that was a better story. Now she has to live with the truth. She didn't need that.
I don't know, but yeah, please take us to the
porch scene. Yeah, because then we go. I mean, there's the New Year's party again from a new perspective. But
Love.
we already kind of,
show us something we've seen before, but not like this.
Yeah. But it also wasn't that different.
No, the only thing that we learned or got a different
was Uncle Grumpy.
Uncle Grump, sure.
And he is Uncle Grumpy. We were remarking that is the best thing about both him and Ellie's dynamic, is you pointed out there. It's like when two pricklies love each other, like two prickly little people who have trouble expressing their emotions, and they settle in and can be really cute with each other for a second. It's fucking heartwarming and adorable.
And I wonder, one of the lines that stood out to me the most was when they're on patrol and Ellie says, "I'm not your fucking kid, I'm your partner." This revenge plot maybe fits a little bit more with a partner than a dad.
Kid.
Yeah, it's like, because when your partner goes down, you'll do anything to fucking avenge them.
Totally.
But that scene on the porch where Ellie finally confronts Pedro and is like, Joel, like, if you fucking lie to me again, it's over.
And again, that is Pedro Pascal's acting in that scene. I felt him feel every emotion that goes with shooting a hospital full of people, reckoning with your own childhood, and losing your daughter, and also having a daughter in front of you who you can't lie to anymore, but you don't admit what you did. And then when he does start to admit it, right?
Yeah.
Here's where, okay, so she's like, were there other immune people?
Yeah.
He says no. She says,
nodding his head.
Were there any raiders? No. And then she said, could they have found a cure? And he nods yes. And I'm like, I still take issue with that premise.
And I have in time come to join you there.
I still take issue with the premise that killing Ellie would have necessarily been a cure.
No, I don't trust that doctor's credentials.
No, and I don't trust. And Ellie, I get, is on this right.
Science doesn't work.
She's got all these moths. She's got all this moth imagery, which Gail, of course, told us symbolizes death. And then she's also got, on one of her drawings, she had a bunch of moths, and it said, "You have a greater purpose." So then she feels really betrayed when she says to Joel, like, "That was my purpose, dying to give the cure. You took my purpose away from me."
Yeah.
And it's like,
no wonder they're mad for the beginning of the season, Ellie.
Yeah, now we get it. But again, I don't want it to be recontextualized. I would have loved this context. But I'm like, I still take issue with that premise because I don't know that Ellie needed to die to find a cure. I don't think it would have worked. I think it's a false premise.
Somebody else was like, and we trust Marlene and the Fireflies to distribute it to everybody. That seems like
lots of questions.
And you know the Seraphites are not taking the vaccine.
No,
you know the Seraphites are anti-vaxxers.
Yeah, and then but then Ellie's like, "Oh, and you did it because you're selfish." And he says, "No, because I love you." Mm-hmm. And in a way that you can't even possibly understand yet. And then that's when he does the, I hope when
I get that that's true to him, but.
Yeah, but it's if you get to have a kid of your own, I hope you do a little better than me.
Yeah.
Like, it's really a beautiful, like, albeit corny, but not corny in a way, like corny in a way that's touching. Like, it really was a full circle episode that I just loved. I really did.
And for Ellie to challenge even what I perhaps, despite our predictive speech writing of like Ellie saying, I can't forgive you for this, but I'm going to try.
God. Fuck.
Good writing makes me think about myself, the choices a person makes, and then ultimately the fucking factor that takes everything else out of it, which is love and connection.
Yeah, and I think that's really beautiful. And I feel like I didn't think that much about myself in this episode because I really was just thinking about how mad I am that Joel and Ellie are the show. And without those two, the way they play off of each other, the way Bella and Pedro, like their relationship.
We felt this episode. We were scared. We were sad. We were happy.
All of it. And I'm just like, without them, I don't know that the show has legs.
What's the engine? Yeah.
And I just wonder too, like, because I know we only have one episode left, which means from everything I do know about the game, we are not finishing game 2 in season 2. Game 2 is going to continue on to season 3.
Okay. And again, Craig, Neil, call us because we could have saved you from a lot of different stuff.
Yeah. And it's like, I want if that's how it was going to go always, we were always going to split game 2 into 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Couldn't we have had more in the top half? Could I have had more Joel and Ellie time before you took Joel away and made me go on this journey with Ellie and Dina? Could I have had more? Because now that it's gone, and also just knowing that season 3 is not going to have Joel at all, like, I'm like, I don't know what I'm in this for, folks.
I don't know what I'm in this for.
Because it's really these two, like, they're the magic of the show. It's really... And
I wasn't feeling saturated on it. You know, I wasn't feeling like, oh, I've had too much. And also, 2022 or 2023 when this came out, I'm not feeling like, oh, I'm bored of this
incredible dynamic
between Pedro and Bella.
Fully. And again, why I think this episode should have come earlier too, because like why Joel's death fell flat was because I had lacked this moment of connection between them. Season 1 was so long ago that when we started the season with them being like, Ellie being kind of mad at Joel and then he dies, I'm like, that sucks so bad. Like, I don't feel that at all. Had you given me this earlier, I would have remembered what I loved about season 1. I would have remembered these characters' dynamic, what Ellie loves about Joel, and all of it. And then it would have broken my heart when Joel died. And that's just not how it went down. And I do think it was a failure on the creators, literally for episode order, because I do think a lot of the critiques we've had for the other episodes, I would have felt differently with this context.
Yeah, and they weren't as strong, certainly, but that doesn't change anything.
Yeah, and I'm like, it's just weird to present a bunch of symbols throughout a season and then only give you the emotional context of those symbols in
That's what I'm saying.
the second to last episode.
A little
it's
bit
weird.
less time jerking each other off in the writer's room and focusing on us, then they may have, delivered a product that was entertaining.
I agree. All right, well, we're about to dive into the rehearsal. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with the rehearsal. Do be thinking, you've heard us talk about The Last of Us. Yes. You're about to hear us talk about the rehearsal.
We've talked about White Lotus.
We've talked about White Lotus. What do y'all want to hear us talk about next? And listen, we can stream anything that falls under the category of streaming. Movies, television shows.
Yes. We've considered things like, do we go pick an actress and do her filmography?
Right.
Do we go to an old beloved show, or do we watch something? Because do we
start a franchise we haven't done yet? Do we do? Yes. And those could go different directions, right?
Tell us.
We could do are we interested in our take on The Last of Us, and therefore maybe y'all want to hear us do something gay like Star Wars? Or do y'all want to hear us do something really cool, something we've never seen before, like Real Housewives? We could start that franchise together. Right. There's a lot of ways we can go, but really curious what y'all want to hear, so let us know. Y'all don't live enough life, though.
And we still have time for television.
Yeah. Oh, my God. The Rehearsal.
Rehearsal, season 2, episode...
7, 6?
Yeah, 6 or 7.
5,
Check
6,
the art if you're
7, 8.
8, 9, 10.
But this is the one where Nathan goes to Congress, or attempts to.
Yeah, Nathan is on the way to Capitol Hill. Congrats, buddy. You've
Congrats.
come really far.
And we start with the fake Congress now. We start with the rehearsal of a congressional hearing with Nathan and John.
John Gaglia.
Goglia. Or just Golia.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Which, what a fucking nag. What a fucking nitpicky, like...
I thought you liked him.
Of course I like him, but I like some of the worst people known to man.
That's not true.
Well, we don't have
picky.
to list. I know, and it's not really...
But
I
it's
don't
random.
know what... I know. As is my right. But John is really nagging or like being very critical of Nathan, which I don't think is very nice or fair, especially since John, it's like, well... You couldn't get all those planes to stop crashing, so maybe let's give somebody else a try and not.
Well, also, John's neurotypical and Nathan's neurodivergent, and that's obvious, and it's never been more clear.
And we have to, here's the impact I would like to leave. Let's get neurotypical people like me, psych, Barry, Nathan Fielder of me, to be like, I'm neurotypical. It's like, no, not so much. But let's get neurotypical people to be helpful and understanding and accommodating to those of us who are neurodivergent. It would strengthen all of our relationships.
I think a lot of people are.
I think a lot of people aren't understanding of people with neurodiversity and don't fuck husbands. Like, I think that it's important to remember, just because it's our own experience, that it's not everyone's experience.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, this is a podcast about our experience. How did you experience this episode of The Rehearsal?
I found it to be one of the more touching episodes of this program, of anything of Nathan Fielder that I've ever consumed. I came into this episode too, like, I continue to think of Nathan as evil, as a villain.
Funny.
You have challenged that view, and I went into, and you were like, he is the butt of the joke. And I was reading, I don't know which publication, maybe it was Interview Mag, for the first season of this, where he was like, echoing or saying what you're saying about being the butt of the joke, but him kind of being like, I have behaviors and was saying stuff all the time that I didn't realize was funny, but other people, like, when the camera's around, were laughing. So I was like, let me lean into that. And that gave me a little bit more of a soft spot for Nathan coming into it. And this fit perfectly with this episode. How about you?
I loved it. I agreed. It's the closest we've gotten to Nathan Fielder, as a person in media who's made a ton of shows, of which we watched all of them. And it's like, but this episode really felt like we're getting to know him on a real level. Like, this autism question, I think, I mean, it goes into exactly what you're saying, right? Like, Nathan Fielder.
Which I fucking last episode was really nervous to talk about autism. One of the things we explore in the podcast is labels and experiences and finding words for our experiences so that we can connect with other people.
Yeah.
And that's where something like autism as a diagnosis, or understanding that as an experience or lens that somebody is filtering through or living their lives, like, is when we say that we can better connect, right? Like if you think like somebody's just weird, it's really hard to, or, you know, you might not be as understanding or gracious as understanding that somebody is autistic.
Well, and thinking about yourself, right? Like self-conception. Like I think of like gifted program stuff. I remember like looking around thinking like, cause like I was in that my whole life, you know, and it was just like always like, I don't know. I always knew there was something different, but I remember looking around the gifted room and I'd be like, why is everyone here super weird and autistic and I'm the only normal one in the room?
If you're looking around wondering why am I the only blank one, like,
yeah, like it's
you're
like
not.
You're not, and that's but I couldn't see it.
Those are your peers.
Those were my peers, but then again, no, they weren't.
Same. What do you mean? No, they weren't. Unless you're uncomfortable.
No, I just think my autism, that again, I don't even identify with having, I've never been diagnosed with that officially by any stretch of the imagination. However, it does absolutely run in my family, and also there's some signs of certainly neurodivergence. But I'm like, no, but mine didn't manifest socially. I've always been really, I'm very social. I've always been very good at good at social.
To be able to read
I was always popular. I was always cool. Like I never really had the same social issues that I would recognize other people with neurodivergence were having a lot of social issues. Yeah. In a way that wasn't really it for me. And honestly, Nathan Fielder, again, despite being kind of like a weird guy, like I think also does not have that. You don't get to be where he is making a show like that without some significant amount of social skill just to make that happen. That kind of work. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, that's,
I don't know, some amount of social skill. I think that's relevant. I don't know.
I mean, maybe this is all nothing. I don't know.
Relevant. I misspoke, but I don't really know what the point is other than to say like, or maybe, you know, turning his idiosyncrasy into his superpower, right?
Totally.
Right? Like if people are laughing when the camera's on, well, I guess that the way that I relate to people is with a camera. I mean, you pointed out too last time we were watching of him. You can see moments of Nathan Fielder in the rehearsal where he appears to be uncomfortable. He appears to not be connecting well. And that seems to be one of the themes or through lines in this episode. And I do think that probably Nathan is, I don't want to say playing up, but really giving specific emphasis to some of his challenges connecting with people in this episode.
Well, and I think understanding the power of the camera too, right? Because like when we're in this episode, we start with the he's dealing with the background actors in the Congress scene, right? And he's telling them like, okay, you can laugh, and now they're cackling. And he's like, no, but like pull it back. Like him trying to like get people to quote act normal is so funny because it's like, what is your schema of normal Nathan? Like he's like, I just want you to all act like human beings,
right?
And it's, you know, and they can't, because it's also he's dealing with the way his kind of you know, quote unquote autism or whatever, you know, his weirdness like is manifesting with having a camera, and that's where he finds like having a camera, as we've explored this whole season, is a form of power, right? People do what you say when you have a camera, right? So him trying to get people to quote act normal under those circumstances is so funny, because while he may be able to act normal in front of a camera, most people cannot, do not. Those are background actors. You know what I mean? Like,
he plays a lot with the words roles.
Yes.
And like talking about roles and starting with those background actors and that confrontation of what you thought that joke was funny, which.
Did you think that joke was funny?
No.
The
masturbating
on a
but I also
bus.
don't think that he thought it was funny or appropriate for that, right?
No.
And then again, when you just mentioned that moment of laughing, when finally the actors do laugh, it's like they've clearly been told to turn it the fuck up loud.
Yeah.
But the actor being like, I didn't know. I thought it was funny, but I didn't know I could laugh.
Yeah, I'll do whatever you want. I'm an actor.
I'll do whatever you want.
I'm an actor, and he's playing with the word actor a lot too in this season, and the word roles, and like how that makes different people perform, right? And it is funny too, because like I think when he pulls up the montage of other comics like going and being genuine in Congress, and then he talks about being a comedian being like his biggest liability because he's turned everything in his life into a joke. Like any Google of him, you're gonna see just jokes, and it's like it is so funny because even the comedians that he showed, like it was like Seth Rogen, and it was Jon Stewart, right?
Hassan
Minaj, but it's like all of them were like, yeah, I cannot picture those careers. I can picture all of those people being earnest and serious in front of Congress, and it makes sense. Like I'm like, Nathan Fielder has developed a very specific brand and career where it's like it really is impossible to know when that guy's being genuine, and you would not know.
Right.
He's a different kind of comedian. And that's, I think they called it what you've called him before, which is pranks, which I've never really thought of him as like a prank comedian, but in some ways it is, right? And that's
some of his work, right? Or it involves
pranks,
it
culture.
involves it. But yeah, he's working with a lot of different things. Like, I don't know, he's a performance artist as much as anything. And I do like his quote unquote special interest being planes, very autism,
totally
and speaks again to like what his the container being what's inside is a big part of his signature in creating, I feel.
The container being what's inside?
Yeah, so when I'm talking about his making an entire season about aviation safety, that's also about social interactions, power, roles, and in this episode, autism, and a hyperfixation with planes references autism, like echoes autism, like the container of what's inside, like chocolate milk inside of a milk chocolate cup.
Yeah. That's so fun.
It's
God, what a good show.
We love
this show. But yeah, and then Nathan, like at Nate's Lizard Lounge, like watching himself as he's getting rejected by that congressman who he'd hoped HBO could help him to secure a meeting with, and like he's just watching himself and like realizing that's when he first does the moment of Googling that we see on camera where he's like, but maybe I could get in under the guise of being an autism activist, because lots and lots of articles are saying that the autism community is feeling really seen by the rehearsal.
Yes.
It's so funny.
I wonder too, obviously, again, like we're seeing him. I believe him, like whether this matters or not, but I believe him that he didn't set out to make something about autism in the first season, but that people responded. Of course, he's not learning in that moment that the autism community really resonated with his work.
Yeah.
At Nate's Lizard Lounge.
Sure.
But I do love, or I did love finding that connection. What was what comes up at Nate's Lizard Lounge too is as he's doing this and the conflict with, or the reason his personality is a liability, or his comedy is a liability to his desire to make an impact and to have a legacy. And he's still playing and pulling on that thread in a way that I don't quite know like how to square those
but
things.
Do you mean his legacy of influencing aviation safety?
Yeah.
You still take that at face value? Because I still think at the end of the day,
he's saying it to me.
Yeah, but I think he just wants to make a good show.
I mean, he's also going to Congress, right? When you talk about the container being what's inside, like if you accidentally make a funny show that changes.
No, it is funny. Well, but then he also goes when he gets to, but then when he does finally get to the congressman, like
what a fucking flop, Steve. Rick my sock. You are such a flop, bro.
Oh my God.
So rude. And then again, talk about somebody. I mean, are we there yet?
Well, we skipped the whole autism center, but the only thing I wanted to say about that was that, to continue with your point, I'm like, sure, he says he ostensibly wants to influence aviation safety, but when he goes into the meeting with the congressman, like his plan, while it might work, is of course like a farce, or I guess it is what's in the container, funny, right? Because it's like the idea of, oh, how are we gonna better the relationship between pilots and co-pilots? They should do some scene work together.
Right.
Read a scene. It both then they practice that kind of dialogue, but it also breaks the ice, whatever, which I think all true. It's actually not a bad premise, but it is something that's like, it's going to get you laughed out of Congress, and you know that going in. So that's where I'm like, there is a facetiousness to how much he genuinely wants to influence aviation safety, because I'm like, there are other ways to say we can work on these dynamics, and there's a pitch that's less of a a joke than Captain Blunt and Captain All Ears.
Right. I wonder if you come in with that in your briefcase as well, like the serious one, or not.
No, I don't think so. I think you make the show.
You just make the show. But what if he could change aviation safety?
Maybe he already has by all the pilots who are watching the show.
I hope they get help.
Yeah.
Here's a hack. Like, you can't really, like, I bet you could talk to pilots, to your religious clergy, because they're really not supposed to report what you say in there in a way that, like, you can even tell, like, a priest, for example, that you're harming people, and they don't have to report.
Yeah, they're under no obligation. Interest.
Yeah. So check that out.
So after Nate's Lizard Lounge is the scene with the Dr. Doreen.
Dr. Doreen
at the autism center.
She was a star.
She was a treat.
And I thought one of the only people that we've seen in Nathan Fielder's work who I think engages with Nathan in a way that seeks to understand him.
Yeah.
And be on his level. I don't know. Tune into his frequency.
I don't even know if it was tuned in. I thought she was very self-assured. As someone who has seen Nathan Fielder's work, she didn't go in like nervous that she was the butt of some joke. Right. She came in very confident that she's going to come across well because she's going to present her.
She was very authoritative.
Yes, and I thought she really just kind of had that on lock because I felt like there's no even right especially if you're familiar with the work, and obviously like when he's pitching himself to her, she's watched all of the rehearsal. She knows why it resonates with the autism community. She likes the show. She knows it's a joke.
She's been participating in those conversations.
Totally, and then she's having this meeting with him where she's like, yeah, she is engaging with him on this level of like, you're a comedian, you're a person making a show. I respect that, and I still think, even if you try to make fun of me or you make this a joke, I actually still think it's working as autism representation, and I think it's cool. Well, and she also clearly thinks he's autistic, which is
right. But engaging him on all those points, right? Like,
yeah,
is really effective, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you think? And again, talking about playing things up, clearly Nathan is turning it up on the
I'm not autistic.
Yeah, which is there's funny, neurotypical and then there's neurodivergent, but
I'm neurotypical.
Yeah, I'm of course neurotypical.
Well, right, but then he does the scene of him playing the eye game, which he cannot seem to win.
No, the eye game, like it made me just, my heart feel so, I felt so much more connected to him. It
just made me want to play. I was yelling. I was like, hey.
Right, you loved the eye game.
I loved the eye game. It got me going, and then I started playing some on TikTok. There's somebody, not that game, but somebody on TikTok is doing questions from the bar exam.
Oh yeah, can you send to me?
And that's really fun.
I have a character who's in law school.
Yeah, I'll send it to you because it's questions from the bar exam, and you just see if you can get it right or not. I'm doing really, really good.
The bar exam is tricky.
Yeah.
Oh, sick.
But they're kind of like logic problems, which is also something we did a lot in the gifted program. A lot of it was logic problems.
I wonder if there's a lot of autistic folks in law.
I think so. Well, because autism, I think what part of there's a lot of pattern recognition involved in autism, which is always why I'm like, I've thought autism has manifested in a very positive way in my life because I think I have really quick pattern recognition skills.
Right.
Where I can also see that becomes like in more severe forms of autism where it's a reliance on patterns. They get really viscerally uncomfortable when they cannot recognize a pattern and things aren't recognizable, which is why they might need something like a rehearsal for going into the airport. And I do love when Dr. Doreen's face kind of lights up. She sees a picture and she's like, wait, you really built this? Like this genuinely would be really good for these kids. Yes, like she can see she's so excited
about
she's like, this is actually going to be super, super helpful to these kids. And I believe it too. It makes perfect fucking sense.
And just engaging with Nathan in like on his various different levels. And I don't know, I think that like little dance she was doing with Nathan of taking for granted that he's autistic.
Yeah.
And to me, also taking for granted that Nathan is aware that he's autistic, her kind of commenting on...
But him pretending not to be, right?
Yeah, well, and when Nathan takes that moment to, which again, show the way that Nathan is referencing his own stuff, but also kind of continuing and expounding upon it, like continuing his work with his promise that he wasn't going to use kids again.
So funny. Well, and that she had just told him before he does bring the kids in again, she just says, I actually think you did a good job with that kid. Like, no, you gave him that, you know.
She's like, when we work with other parents who have autism, children with autism whose parents clearly have autism, kind of gesturing to him. She's like, there can be challenges, those emotions or reading can be tough. And while that certainly I'm hearing you say that you struggled with that. Here's some areas that I think you did great.
Right. Getting that kid to call you daddy was not such a bad thing. It was actually like, that was a really good example of kind of being able to engage with that role for you and that kid.
And
she was like, I'm proud of you.
I really love good progress.
Her. I loved her.
No, like I ship it.
And I loved all the kids going to the airport and Nathan's Airport t-shirts.
Nathan's Airport. We got to source that immediately.
Yeah. Can someone send us a Nathan's Airport shirt?
I love the kid being like, I'm Jeffrey. I'm a kid. I'm 10. Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, kid.
I love anybody who's doing it fucking different. Again, like we get to, that is the one thing about Nathan referring to, he keeps being like, well, this is how everyone feels, right? Like this is how everyone feels.
Right.
Talking about his own experience. Yeah. That is our fucking way in, right? Totally. We all have, while we're not all autistic, we all have experiences that can be related to, that we can learn from people who are very specifically analyzing certain areas of their life. I think that's fucking cool as hell.
Well, and then it is so funny though that then he immediately is like, that happens to him, we all feel it, and then he's got in his voiceover his kind of dismissal of it. He's like, and I don't need a rehearsal. It's nice to have, but I don't need it.
Did you find that funny, or did you find it like,
it's kind of cute, funny, cute, endearing?
I don't know. I felt like when I'm saying like he was really playing in or playing up stuff this episode, that was an occasion when he's doing that transition of, I want the rehearsal, I don't need the rehearsal, cutting to him kind of stumbling with
the congressman.
It just felt heavy-handed.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
And intentionally so, or it doesn't really matter because the impact was sweet?
I don't know. I thought it was, again, I just think it all goes back to, this was a very sweet episode for Nathan. I don't think this just felt like the most personal episode of TV he's done in his career to date. Like it really spotlight on him. It's very, I don't know. And also to even, I find it very brave to even play with that conversation that way of him, like his, whether or not he has autism and how much he's denying it or not denying it, to play with that on this gigantic platform is really good and brave, and I liked it.
And talk about impact, talk about legacy, talk about comedy, the power of entertainment. Clearly we believe in that, the power of television.
Yeah.
All those kids who Doreen and Nathan brought to Nathan's Airport.
Seems like they had a great day.
Yeah. Talk about aviation, changing the game of aviation.
Yeah.
They really did that this episode.
Yeah.
In contrast to how well Doreen engaged with Nathan, it seems that the ranking member, Steve of
the aviation subcommittee.
Yeah. Where was he from?
I don't know.
It wasn't Tennessee.
Might have been.
But with his big ass walking cane, step one, if a guy comes in with an elaborate walking cane that's like mast like and staff like, this is somebody who's not secure in themselves. This is somebody who is projecting power rather than standing in their own. Big flop.
I don't know. I mean, he just felt like that was a very Veep-esque scene to me. And I'm like, most of I think being in Congress is just kind of taking meetings, pretending to listen, and then moving on so you can go do that again with somebody else while you actually just do whatever your lobbyists and other caucus members kind of tell you to do.
Right, in contrast to the subcommittee hearing, it's one-on-one meeting in Steve's office.
Yeah.
And again, Nathan playing up, but clearly struggling to engage with Steve on the content. And there are moments that definitely feel more real than others or genuine than others, where Steve is like, reading can be good. I generally go off the cuff.
Right.
As Nathan's trying to articulate, talk about.
Right.
And you watch that fucker light up when he starts getting out those reports, and Nathan starts going through the reports again. It's like he is fucking passionate about this.
Well, and where it is, because it is actually, while it's all funny and it's First Officer Blunt and Captain All Ears, and it's a funny concept to make pilots read a scene together to break the ice, but then he does the simulated flight and then they get to joke about it. I'm like, it is not a bad idea to have pilots do some kind of icebreaker game, right? That does breed connection. I mean, just same way, like, as we explored acting this season, acting class, like these different things people do together breeds connection and different forms of intimacy. And by playing a character, you can let out certain parts of yourself. And I think Nathan playing the character of himself in the rehearsal is really that, you know what I mean? Like, it's bringing out this other part of himself that he now gets to explore pretty openly, and that he may not have done in his own life, but he gets to do in the context of this TV show. So giving the pilots this idea that they could find this intimacy and connection in new parts of themselves by playing a role for even a few minutes is not a bad idea.
And then to outside of the role, right? Because I think that it was a little bit, I mean, obviously convoluted intentionally. So how you go from, you do the role, you read the script, but then in the cockpit, right, we see them
reference it again.
Yeah, reference the character while not being the character. And it's like, cheer really well also lived and represented by Nathan doing that on his own work. It's fucking cool.
Yeah, I love the show.
I wonder in that.
What do you wonder? Tell me.
What was the point you had just made about the cockpits, the roles, the flying? Oh, I wanted to, when we saw me, Barb, Beth, and my grandma, when I graduated NYU and they were all in town for graduation. It's grad weekend as well. Anyway, we saw the Cher show on Broadway with Stephanie J. Block, who won a Tony for it. Great. It really gave me great context and connection with Cher and her music. But Cher talks to her mom about being afraid and getting stage fright. And her mom's like, you want to be an actress, right? You want to be an actor? And she's like, yeah. She's like, okay, then act like you're the bravest girl in the entire world.
Yep.
And that has stuck with me in my own performance. It's nice to see that explored on the rehearsal.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Thanks for watching Stream Queens.
I'm Julia Went.
I'm Erin McKeon. And please, for God's sake, tell us what the fuck you want us to watch next.
Yeah, we'll watch it.
We'll watch it. We love you. Bye.